The gentle morning breeze flowed through the open windows of Jun's small restaurant, bringing with it the unmistakable aroma of the spices he loved so much. Chengdu, with its bustling streets and the buzz of everyday life, seemed far away as he focused on his work. The restaurant, a cozy space decorated with red lanterns and wooden tables, was about to host a local celebration, and Jun was determined to impress his customers with a special dish. In the corner of the kitchen, Jun stirred a pot of broth, the steam rising and enveloping him in a warm embrace. He smiled as he heard the laughter and conversations of arriving customers, their voices blending with the soft music playing in the background. The atmosphere was one of joy and anticipation. With each ladle of broth, he felt the vibrant energy of the place, a sensation that always motivated him to create flavors that warmed not just the stomach, but also the heart. "Jun, what are you making today? It smells delicious," shouted Li, a regular customer who was also a close friend. "It's a new dish I'm testing for today's celebration. Ramen with a special touch of Sichuan pepper and fresh herbs. I want everyone to feel the warmth and passion of our culture in every bite," Jun replied, wearing a satisfied smile. "You always outdo yourself." "I can't wait to try it," said Li, winking at him before moving away to greet other customers. Jun felt inspired by Li's enthusiasm. He knew that food was more than just ingredients. It was a way to connect people, to tell stories. As he continued to cook, he thought about how his restaurant had become a gathering place for the community. The laughter, the conversations, and the celebrations that took place there were what he valued most. The clock on the wall read 6:30 p.m. when the first tables began to fill. Jun adjusted his apron and took one last look around the kitchen, making sure everything was perfect. A warm sense of satisfaction filled his chest as he saw the happy faces of his customers, many of whom were long-time acquaintances. He made his way to the dining area, where the aromas mingled and smiles were abundant. "All right, everyone," Jun raised his hand to get their attention. "Today, we have a special dish. I hope you're all ready for an explosion of flavors." Applause and cheers filled the space. A wave of joy swept through the restaurant, warming Jun's heart even more. He felt at home, surrounded by people who appreciated his work and his passion for cooking. However, as the celebration unfolded, a shrill sound cut through the joyful air of the restaurant. The fire alarm blared, echoing like a cry for help. Jun frowned, his heart racing. He looked at the customers, who were now standing confused and worried. "Stay calm, let's exit in an orderly fashion," Jun shouted, trying to keep his composure. He knew safety was the priority, but seeing his anxious customers made him uneasy. The consuming flames began to manifest in his mind, leading him to fear the worst. He rushed to the kitchen, where the smell of smoke was already starting to mix with the aroma of the dishes he had prepared. Panic took over the space as customers, now terrified, headed for the exit. "Jun, what's happening?" shouted Li, who was near the door. "We need to get out, now!" Jun replied, gesturing for everyone to hurry. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, not just for his safety, but for everyone there. The restaurant, which had once been a place of joy, now felt like a labyrinth of uncertainties. People rushed toward the exit, and Jun joined them, his heart pounding. As he stepped outside, he turned for one last look at the place he loved so much. The sight of flames beginning to dance in the windows made his breath catch. A scream of despair echoed in his mind. Outside, the scene was chaotic. Customers crowded the sidewalk, some crying, others in shock. Jun forced himself to take a deep breath, trying to calm the storm building inside him. He couldn't believe what was happening. His restaurant, his home, was being consumed by flames. "Jun! Jun!" Li called out, trying to approach. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but what about the restaurant? What are we going to do?" Jun's voice trembled, and he felt tears starting to form in his eyes. "We need to call the fire department." "We can't do anything alone," Li said, trying to stay calm. As the ambulance siren echoed in the distance, June sat on the ground, his back against the wall of a nearby building. He watched helplessly as the flames spread, engulfing the walls that used to be decorated with photos of happy moments, with smiles from satisfied customers. Despair enveloped him like a dark cloud, and he felt lost in a sea of uncertainties. How will I start over? Everything I built is falling apart, he murmured, pain evident in his voice. Lee sat down beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Jun, you are a fighter. This is not the end. You will find a way to rise again. Lee's words seemed distant, as if they came from another world. Jun looked up at the sky, the stars starting to appear, but all he could see was the smoke rising into the night, obscuring his view. The feeling of loss was overwhelming, and he felt as if he had lost not just a physical space, but also the essence of who he was. I don't know how to move on, Jun confessed, his voice low and broken. One step at a time, my friend. You're not alone. We're here for you, Lee replied, firm in his determination to support his friend. As the firefighters arrived and the crowd dispersed, Jun sat there in silence, watching the flames dance, as if bidding farewell to a world that would never return. The idea of starting over felt as distant as the stars in the sky. How could he find the strength to rise again when everything he loved was turning to ashes? Despair transformed into deep reflection, and Jun found himself lost in his thoughts as the fire consumed not only his restaurant, but also the hope of a promising future. The only thing he knew was that he needed a new path, but how could he find one when everything seemed so bleak? Jun arrived at the community center with a heavy heart, but a small glimmer of hope still pulsed within him. The environment was filled with people, each with their own stories of loss and struggle. He settled at one of the tables, observing the room full of faces that mirrored the pain he felt. The meeting would begin soon, and he did not know what to expect. The program facilitator, a middle-aged man named Zhang, stepped onto the makeshift stage and began to speak. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are here to share our stories, our struggles, and more importantly, to support one another. Life can knock us down, but together we are stronger, Zhang said with a warm smile. Jun felt a slight comfort in the words, but there was still a barrier between him and the others. After a few introductions, an elderly woman, May, stood up. Her white hair was pulled into a simple bun, and her presence radiated a quiet wisdom. I am May, she began, her voice soft yet firm. I lost my husband last year. He was the love of my life, and since then, life has lost some of its flavor. But I learned that even in pain, we can find new paths. Jun listened attentively as May shared how she had started making cakes and breads in honor of her husband as a way to keep his memory alive. Food has always been a form of love in our family, she said, and Jun felt a tightness in his chest. He too had poured so much love into every dish he served. And this is how we can connect with others, May continued. Through food, we can create bonds, share joys, and ease sorrows. A murmur of agreement swept through the room, and Jun felt touched by the woman's sincerity. He wanted to believe that food could be a bridge, but doubt still lingered over him. How could he, who had just lost everything, offer something to someone? When the meeting ended, the participants began to disperse. Jun hesitated, looking around. May, who was tidying up some things at the table, noticed his hesitation and approached him. Are you okay, dear? She asked, her eyes shining with concern. I'm trying to find myself, but it's hard, Jun replied, feeling vulnerable. I had a restaurant. It was all I had. Now I feel like I've lost my identity. May smiled gently. Losing something can be painful, but it can also be an opportunity to rediscover who you really are. Sometimes life gives us a push so we can see what truly matters. Jun pondered her words. He wasn't sure if he was ready for that rediscovery, but something in the way May spoke inspired him. "Do you really believe that's possible?" he asked, still skeptical. "I know it is," May affirmed with conviction. "Food is an expression of who we are. When we cook, we're sharing a piece of our soul. And believe me, even when everything seems to crumble, we still have the ability to create something beautiful." John felt a wave of emotion. It was as if May had seen through his pain and found the seed of hope he thought he had lost. "I would like to try," he said, determination beginning to form within him. "Great," May replied, smiling. "How about we start now? Let's prepare something together. A simple dish, but full of love." John hesitated, but soon the idea of cooking with May began to shine in his mind. He remembered how cooking had always been his refuge, a space where he could be creative and express his feelings. "Yes, let's do it," he said, a little more confident. The two headed to a small kitchen at the back of the community center. The kitchen was equipped with basic utensils, but John realized that for him, that didn't matter. What mattered was the act of cooking, of creating something with his own hands. "Let's make a dish that reminds me of my childhood," May said, as she took some simple ingredients from the fridge. "Fried rice with vegetables. It's easy, quick, and more importantly, it's delicious." Jun watched as May began to chop the vegetables with a skill that only experience could provide. He joined her, and soon he was chopping onions and carrots, laughing and chatting. The environment filled with familiar aromas, and for the first time in weeks, Jun felt a sense of peace. "You know, when I was younger, my grandfather used to teach me how to cook," May shared while stirring the rice. "He always said that cooking is like telling a story. Each ingredient is a word, and the combination of them creates something unique." Jun smiled, imagining his own grandfather and the wisdom he had shared as well. "I guess I never thought of cooking that way. For me, it was just a way to make a living." "Ah, but it's so much more than that," May said, looking into Jun's eyes. "Food is a means of connection. It's what brings us together, what makes us remember special moments." As they cooked, May shared stories of her life, her husband, and even her favorite recipes. John felt at ease, almost as if he were home again. He began to remember his own love for cooking, the nights he experimented with new dishes and dreamed of serving his food to the world. After a few minutes, the dish was ready. They served the rice in simple bowls and sat down at the table. "Here it is," May said, raising her bowl in a toast, "to new friendship and new stories." John lifted his bowl, a genuine smile forming on his lips. "To new friendship," he repeated, feeling grateful for that moment of connection. As they ate, John realized that food was more than just sustenance. It was also a vehicle for understanding, empathy, and love. Each bite was a reminder that he still had the ability to create, to connect with others, and to transform his pain into something beautiful. "You know, May," Jun began, "I really feel like I'm starting to understand what you said about the value of relationships. It's as if, by cooking with you, I'm rediscovering a part of myself that was lost." May smiled, her eyes shining with joy. "I'm so happy you feel that way. And remember, whenever you feel lost, the kitchen will always be there for you. It's a place where you can be yourself." Jun nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He knew there was still a long way to go, but at that moment, he felt he was finally starting to find his place in the world again. The food, the friendship, and the new community were exactly what he needed to start over. John had been in the community kitchen for a few weeks, but he felt as though he had found a new home. The aroma of spices, the clinking of pots, and the laughter of the volunteers blended into a symphony that warmed his heart. It was a vibrant space where each prepared dish was an offering of love and solidarity, a celebration of the cultural diversity that Chengdu embraced. He was learning to cook dishes from different parts of the world, and each recipe came with a unique story that he delighted in discovering. On that sunny morning, June was focused on making a typical Mexican dish, beef tacos with guacamole. He was following the instructions of Carla, a woman with curly hair and a contagious smile who had become his friend in the kitchen. "You need to make the guacamole really spicy." "That's a tradition," Carla said, while she skillfully chopped onions and tomatoes. "Spicy, you say?" Jun replied, holding a jalapeno pepper. "Do you want me to put all of this in?" "Yes, don't be afraid of the heat. Life is made of intense flavors, my friend." She winked, and Jun laughed, remembering that in his old restaurant, he always worried about pleasing each customer's palate, often forgetting to have fun in the process. As he stirred the ingredients, June reflected on how cooking was no longer just a way to make a living. Now, it was a way to connect with people, to create bonds, and to share moments. He remembered the laughter he had heard over the weeks, the stories that had been shared while they cooked together. It was as if each of them was not only starting over, but also rebuilding their lives through food. "Jun, are you there?" May called, appearing at the kitchen door. She always brought a calm and welcoming energy. "I'm here, May. Come try the guacamole I'm making," Jun replied, smiling. May approached, watching as he mixed the ingredients. "It looks wonderful. Have you thought about how food can bring people together? My grandfather always said that the table is a sacred place." May began to chop some cilantro leaves. "I felt that more than ever. In the restaurant, I cooked for the customers, but now cooking for you all feels like a celebration of who we are together." Jun felt a warmth in his chest, a new understanding of what food meant to him. Exactly. When we cook together, we're creating memories. Each dish is a piece of our story. Jun paused for a moment and looked at May. "Tell me more about your grandfather. I feel there's a connection between our stories." May smiled, her gaze distant. "My grandfather was a renowned chef, but he was also a man who faced his struggles. He always said that the true flavor of life was in the relationships we build, not in the possessions we accumulate. He lost everything during the war, but never lost his ability to love and cook. For him, every meal was an opportunity to connect with others." Jun felt a wave of empathy. He knew what it was like to lose everything. "And how did you find strength after his hardships?" "He taught me to cook when I was little. In the kitchen, I learned that food has the power to heal. With every meal I prepared, I felt his presence with me, as if he were telling me that everything would be okay. Food is a legacy, a way to honor those we love." Jun pondered this. He had always seen cooking as a form of personal success, but now, in the light of May's words, it seemed much deeper. "Sometimes I miss my restaurant, my old life. It's as if I'm in limbo, not knowing where to go." May placed her hand on his shoulder. "You've already taken the first step, Jun. Look around you. You're already creating something new. The true wealth is in the connections you make with the people around you. Don't forget that." The conversation flowed, and as May shared stories about her grandfather and her own experiences, Jun felt a wave of gratitude. He began to realize that even though he had lost his restaurant, he had found a new purpose. The community kitchen was not just a place to work. It was a space where he could rediscover himself and, more importantly, rediscover the essence of what it means to be a chef. That afternoon, while they prepared tacos and guacamole, Jun had an epiphany. He looked at the smiling faces of his fellow volunteers, each immersed in their own task, but all united by a common goal. What was going through his mind was simple yet powerful. What if he could use his culinary art to bring the community together in a more meaningful way? Jun suggested, excitement bubbling inside him. "Carla, May, what if we did an event? A night where people could bring their favorite dishes and share their stories." "That would be amazing," Carla exclaimed, her eyes shining. "People love to tell stories about their recipes." May nodded. "It's a great idea, Jun. Food is a way to share our cultures, We can create a space where everyone feels welcome and connected. Let's make it happen, Jun said, determined. The idea of bringing the community together through cooking ignited a flame within him, a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in a long time. As they continued to cook, Jun couldn't stop smiling. He realized he was finally reconnecting with his passion, not just as a chef, but as someone who could inspire others to come together and celebrate life. And so, under the soft afternoon light, with the aroma of food filling the air, Jun felt he was beginning to write a new chapter in his life. A life where true wealth was not in a restaurant, but in the experiences and connections he was about to create. The night was illuminated by a full moon and a gentle breeze that carried the unmistakable scent of home-cooked food. Jun stood in front of his table, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Flavor Night was more than just an event. It was a celebration of life, an opportunity for every person in the community to come together and share a piece of themselves through food. He had spent the week preparing for it, arranging tables, inviting people, and above all, planning a menu that reflected the diversity of his community. When the first people started to arrive, Jun's heart raced. He saw May, the elderly woman who had become a valuable mentor in his journey of rediscovery, with a warm smile on her face. Next to her, a group of young people chatted excitedly, holding colorful plates filled with tempting aromas. "Jun, dear," May exclaimed, wrapping him in a tight hug. "I'm so happy you made this happen. It's exactly what we need." "Thank you, May. I hope everyone enjoys it. I wanted tonight to be special," Jun replied, trying to hide the anxiety in his voice. He looked around and saw familiar faces, neighbors and friends who in some way had become an extension of his own family. "You did an excellent job. People are excited," May said, watching the growing activity in the hall. Soon the space was filled with laughter and conversation. The smell of home-cooked dishes mingled with the fragrance of the flowers Jun had placed on the tables. He felt alive, as if each laugh, each story told, helped him heal the wounds left by the fire. "Hi, Jun," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lee, a young man who had always watched him with admiration, but had never had the courage to approach. "I brought a dish I learned to make with my grandmother." He held a bowl of homemade noodles, looking nervous but determined. "Lee, that looks amazing. Come on, let's put them on the main table. Everyone needs to try your recipe," Jun said, guiding the young man to the tables. As he placed the noodles beside other delicacies, he noticed the expression of relief and happiness on Lee's face. "You know, I've always wanted to be a chef, but I've never had the courage to follow that dream," the young man confessed, looking down. Jun stopped and looked into Lee's eyes. "Why not? You have talent. If you love cooking, you should follow your heart. I'm an example of that. I started from scratch after losing my restaurant. Don't be afraid to dream." Lee lifted his head, his eyes shining. "Do you really think I could?" "Of course. If you need help, I'm here. I can teach you a few things," Jun said, feeling warmth in his chest as he saw hope rekindled in the young man's eyes. The night went on, and the hall was now filled with laughter. Jun felt like a conductor, orchestrating a concert of flavors and stories. People shared their experiences. Some talked about their family traditions, while others discussed how cooking had helped them overcome challenges. The feeling of community was palpable, and Jun realized he was exactly where he was meant to be. In one corner, May was talking to a group of women about the importance of food in celebrations and rituals. Jun approached and listened to her wisdom spread like the smoke from a slowly cooked dish. Food is more than sustenance. It's love, it's history. Every dish we make carries a piece of our life, of our culture. And when we share, we're giving a bit of ourselves to each other, May said, gesturing with her hands as she spoke. "You always have the best way of seeing things, May," Jun said, admiring the woman who had inspired him so much. "Today, I feel that more than ever. I feel it too, Jun. You're creating something beautiful here. It's not just about the food, but about the connections you're building, May replied, giving his shoulder a gentle pat. As the night continued, Jun realized that he was not the only one healing. Everyone was there, sharing their stories and their pains, and somehow they were coming together. Each dish served was a bridge between intertwining lives, creating a rich and exciting tapestry of human experiences. "Jun, could you come here for a moment?" called a woman who was in line to serve herself. Her look was serious, but there was a sparkle of gratitude in her eyes. "Of course, what do you need?" Jun asked as he approached. "I just wanted to say that your food reminded me of my grandmother. She always made a similar dish when I was a child. Thank you for bringing back those memories. It means a lot to me," the woman said, her voice choked with emotion. Jun smiled, his heart warmed by her words. "That's exactly what I hope food does. Connect us, remind us of who we are and where we came from." As the night progressed, the energy intensified. He realized that the Night of Flavors was not just an event, but the beginning of a new phase in his life. He was becoming a vital part of that community, and each person present was a testament to the resilience and power of human connection. When the night came to an end, Jun looked around. The tables were nearly empty, but the atmosphere was filled with laughter and promises of new encounters. He sat down at one of the tables, exhausted but fulfilled. May joined him, a satisfied smile on her face. "You did an amazing job, Jun. People are so happy," she said. "Thank you, May. I feel like I'm finally finding my way back. It's not just about cooking, but about creating a space where people can come together and support each other," he replied, looking at the faces that now seemed more familiar. "And you are doing that masterfully. Remember, every small action counts. You are building a support network that goes far beyond food," May said, and Jun knew her words were true. As the night came to a close, the moon shone in the sky, and Jun felt a new flame ignited within him. He knew there were still challenges ahead, but now he was not alone. The community was his new family, and together they could face any storm. In the bustling heart of Chengdu, the aroma of spices and the sound of animated voices filled the air. Jun looked around, admiring the transformation his life had taken. The community was coming together, and he, a central piece in this puzzle, felt that he had finally found a purpose. But even amidst the euphoria, a shadow of melancholy lingered over him. The fire still burned in his memory like an indelible scar, reminding him of what had been before. On a sunny afternoon, Jun sat on one of the benches in the local park, watching children play and families gathering to share meals. Beside him, May, the wise woman who had become his mentor, was engrossed in an old cookbook. The sun illuminated her face, and Jun, in admiration, asked, "May, do you still remember what you told me about the true value of relationships?" She looked at him, a gentle smile on her lips. "Of course, Jun. Food brings us together, but it's the experiences that truly connect us. Every dish you cook has a story, a memory that can touch someone's heart." Jun sighed, the weight of his own memories pressing down on him. "I miss my restaurant, May. That space where I expressed my art, where people came not just to eat, but to experience something special. Sometimes I feel like what I'm doing now isn't enough." May closed the book and turned to him, her expression serious. "What you feel is natural, Jun. But remember that the kitchen is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. You are building something much bigger than a restaurant. You are creating a community." Jun looked down at the ground, the dry leaves rustling under his feet. "I know, but sometimes it's hard to let go of what I had. That was my life, my dream." "Dreams can change, Jun, Your dream hasn't disappeared, it has transformed. You are not only helping people come together, but you are also rediscovering yourself in the process. The true wealth lies in the connections you make, in the stories you share. He pondered her words. But what if I want to start over with a new restaurant, something that represents all of this? May smiled, her eyes shining with understanding. Then do it. But remember that your new space should reflect the community you are helping to build. A place where people can feel welcome, where each dish tells a story. Jun felt a spark of hope grow within him. He remembered all the nights he spent cooking for friends and neighbors, each meal a symbol of love and unity. You're right, May. I want people to feel that they belong when they enter a space I created. And you can do that, Jun. Start thinking about what you want that place to be. What do you want people to feel when they taste your food? The conversation flowed like a river, and Jun began to sketch out ideas. He imagined an open space with long wooden tables where people could sit together, share laughter and stories, just like they had during the Night of Flavors. He wanted each dish served to be a celebration of the culture and diversity of his community. As they talked, Jun decided he wanted to incorporate the recipes May had in her book, some of which had been passed down from generation to generation. Can I use some of these recipes, May? They have so much history and meaning. I want to honor the legacy of those who came before us. May nodded, her gaze full of pride. Of course! These recipes are like a treasure. They bring with them not just ingredients, but the essence of who we are. Use them with love. Days passed, and Jun dedicated himself to planning his new space. He began to gather people from the community, sharing his vision and listening to their ideas. Together, they started to work not only on the physical construction of the restaurant, but also on creating a welcoming environment. Jun wanted everyone who walked in to feel like part of the family. One night, as they were arranging tables and chairs, Lee, the young man Jun had encouraged to pursue his dreams of being a chef, approached him. Jun, can I help you with the recipes? I'm learning so much from you and would love to contribute. Jun smiled, feeling touched by the young man's offer. Of course, Lee. It would be an honor to cook alongside you. Let's create dishes that will tell our story. As they worked together, the kitchen filled with laughter and delicious aromas. Lee had a natural talent, and Jun saw in him a passion that reminded him of himself years ago. You have a gift, Lee. Never doubt that. Thank you, Jun. You inspire me to follow my dreams, Lee replied, his eyes shining with determination. That night, as the aroma of dinner wafted through the kitchen, Jun realized that every dish they prepared was intertwined with the love and unity of the community. He felt that although his old restaurant had been consumed by flames, the flames of passion and hope were being reborn, stronger than ever. In a moment of pause, Jun turned to May, who was watching everything with a satisfied smile. May, did you know this would happen? That I would find a new path? She smiled, her eyes filled with wisdom. I always knew, Jun. Life is full of cycles. Sometimes it takes burning the old to make way for the new. What you are doing is not just rebuilding a restaurant, you are creating a home. Those words resonated deeply with Jun. He was building a home not just for himself, but for all those who had gone through hardships, a place of welcome and rebirth. He realized that every ingredient he used was a part of something bigger, each dish a new story. At that moment, Jun was ready to embrace the future. He decided that when he reopened his restaurant, he would not only serve delicious dishes, but also open the doors for everyone to share their stories, their struggles, and their victories. He wanted his new space to be a refuge, a place where memories intertwined in a banquet of life. As the sun set over Chengdu, Jun looked at the horizon, his heart filled with hope. He knew that the journey was just beginning, but now, with the community by his side and the love for cooking burning inside him, he was prepared to face any challenge. After all, the greatest legacy he could leave was not just the restaurant, but the connections he helped create, the lives he touched, and the stories yet to come. Jun looked at the empty space where his old restaurant once pulsed with life. It was a space that now echoed with memories, but also a blank canvas, ready to be filled again. After months of struggle and support from the community, he decided it was time to start over. With the lessons learned and the strength of his new friends, Jun dreamed of opening a new restaurant, not just as a business, but as a true community space. He wanted every dish served to be a celebration of unity, love, and resilience. On the morning of the opening, Jun woke up early, his heart racing with anticipation. He dressed in his chef's uniform, feeling the familiarity of the fabric against his skin. Looking in the mirror, he realized that although the pain of loss was still present, there was something more, a spark of hope and determination. As he prepared, his mind was filled with memories of the moments that brought him here. The space of the new restaurant showcased simple yet welcoming decor. The tables were lined up, covered with white tablecloths and fresh flowers. The kitchen, though modest, was equipped with everything he needed to begin his new journey. Jun was anxious, but he was not alone. The familiar faces of the community began to arrive, all with smiles and encouraging words. Among them was May, who had become a close friend, not only for the wisdom she shared, but for the strength she emanated. "Jun, this place is beautiful," May exclaimed as she admired the decor. "It's like a dream coming true." "Thank you, May. Without you and everyone else, this wouldn't be possible," Jun replied, his gaze full of gratitude. The guests began to gather, and the atmosphere was charged with emotion. Jun felt he was about to take an important step, not just for himself, but for everyone who supported him. He looked at the crowd, feeling a wave of love and support. It was a true celebration of community. "Everyone, if you could, please come over here," Jun called, his voice firm and full of emotion. When everyone gathered around him, he continued, "Today, we are not just opening a new restaurant. We are celebrating the strength we found together. Each of you helped me find my way again, and it's to you that I am grateful for being here." Applause echoed, and Jun smiled, moved. The warmth of the clapping seemed to warm his soul. He knew that each person in the room had a story of struggle and overcoming, and that was what made that moment so special. To start, I would like to share a recipe that was passed down to me by someone very special, Jun said as he headed to the kitchen. He began to prepare the dish, an old recipe he had found in May's recipe notebook. This recipe is more than just food. It's a connection to the past and to those who came before us. As Jun worked, the aroma of fresh ingredients filled the air and conversations intensified. He felt at home, surrounded by people who cared and shared the same passion for cooking. When he finished, he brought the dish to the table. It was a recipe that combined flavors and traditions, a true symbol of the union of their stories. "Here you go, everyone, a dish that represents our journey together," he said, serving each one with a smile. The guests began to savor the food, and soon the restaurant was filled with laughter and compliments. The energy was contagious, and Jun couldn't help but smile at the joy on his friends' faces. "Jun, this is amazing. You really captured the flavor of our community," said Lee, the young man he had encouraged to pursue his dreams of becoming a chef. "Thank you, Lee. I'm so happy you're here." "You're part of all this," Jun replied, with a sparkle in his eyes. In the midst of the celebration, May approached Jun, holding something in her hands. With a gentle smile, she said, "Jun, before the party continues, I would like to give you something very special." She then handed him an old recipe book, its yellowed pages showing the signs of time. "This book belonged to my grandfather. He was a renowned chef, and like you, believed that food was a means to bring people together. John looked at the book, his breath caught. May, this is incredible. Thank you. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Just cook with it and use its recipes to create new memories, May encouraged, her gaze full of understanding. As June began to flip through the book, he came across recipes that made him feel connected to a past he never knew. One in particular caught his attention, a recipe for a dish his family used to make on major celebrations. It was a recipe that had been forgotten over the years. I can't believe. I know this dish. My grandmother used to make it, but I can't remember how it was, John said, his voice choked with emotion. This dish brings back so many memories. Your grandfather and I were childhood friends, May revealed, a nostalgic smile on her lips. He always talked about you and your talent in the kitchen. He believed you would do great things. But how do you know this? John asked, surprised. He told me once, during a conversation, that he had saved the life of a member of my family during a fire. He always said that food had the power to heal and bring people together, May explained, her gaze distant as if reliving those moments. The revelation hit John like a bolt of lightning. He had never known the bond that existed between their families, but now everything seemed clear. So, in a way, we are all interconnected, aren't we? Our stories intertwine in ways we can't even imagine. Exactly, May smiled, her hands coming together. True wealth lies not only in the dishes we serve, but in the stories we tell and the connections we make. John felt a wave of gratitude and fulfillment. He realized that, by losing his restaurant, he had gained something much more significant. A community that supported him, a family legacy he could honor, and a new mission that went beyond cooking. Let's cook together, May. Let's bring these recipes back to life and share these stories with everyone, he suggested, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. I would love to, June. Together, we can create a space where people not only come to eat, but also come to connect and share their own stories, May replied, her radiant smile. With that, June returned to the kitchen, determined to prepare the dish he had rediscovered. He knew that although the road ahead might be challenging, he was no longer alone. He was surrounded by a community that had become his family, and together they would create something truly special. As he chopped the ingredients, John felt that he had finally found his place in the world again. It was a new beginning, a new journey, and he was ready to dive in head first. True wealth was in the experiences, the connections, and the love that spread through every dish he served. And so, with a heart full of hope and gratitude, Jun began to write his new chapter, one dish at a time. Now, let's take a brief reflection. This story shows us the power of resilience and community. Jun faced a devastating loss, but found strength in the people around him and in his passion for cooking, discovering that the true value of life lies in the connections we make and the stories we share. Cooking became more than just preparing food. It was a way to heal, unite, and transform. What did this story teach you? What lessons can you take into your own life? Leave in the comments what you thought of the story and what the biggest lesson you learned from it was. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this and not to miss the upcoming videos that will surprise you with other beautiful and emotional stories. Until the next video.